Welcome to our question and answer section for today with none other than the World President Patricia Pelton. Welcome. I am Rodrigua Ross.
And I'm Keith Vinson.
And we are a part of the Causenetic team. Causenetic is a podcast powered by the Dallas YMCA. But today, for this time, we have the amazing opportunity to host this question and answer time. Just as a reminder, we want to hear from you. So go ahead and light the chat up, put your questions in there, say hello to one another. It brings the world together, and we would love to see all of the folks that are joining us online.
But so here's what we need though in the chat room. Right now, if you guys could put in where you're from, because we need to know from around the world. So the beauty about the YMCA is that we are literally all over the place.
Yeah.
And we want to be able to hear from you. We wish you guys were here with us. We have about 1,200 people here and about another 1,100 that's online. And we want to be able to let you all know online that you are greatly appreciated for being out there. So, hey, put in the chat for us where you're from.
Yes.
And any questions?
On to the good stuff, right? Is any more instructions?
I think that's all from right now.
And eat cake. If you're near cake, eat the cake, right? It's fine.
Hey.
So welcome on to the good stuff. Hello, how are you?
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Honestly, I'm so happy to be here. And I'm so happy to connect with the people that are online.
Yeah.
We so wish we could all be here.
Yes.
But you know, there's some advantages as well, because the producer here, Mike, has just set up a great program for the online participants.
Yes.
It's been amazing. And then, like I said, that ability to still connect. Just hearing yesterday the breakdown that you gave about our online participants, the percentage who were in Asia and the percentage of them who were in North America, and I was just amazed, right? Through all the different time zones and all of the different things that are happening around the world. Everyone simultaneously is stopping what they're doing and taking that time to join online. So that's pretty cool.
It is.
Now we've had some amazing stuff that happened under your leadership, and also some challenging things as well. Like, we've gone through a pandemic. We've gone through many different things throughout the world, right? Like, what is your inspiration to really keep going and be able to hit those targeted goals that we had set over your term?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I'll tell you what keeps myself going as being the president of World YMCA, and our team going, who I have a very servant leadership style, so we do everything in a team. You know, obviously there's some times where you have to have that independent, strong leadership, but for the most part, everything is done with a strong teamwork with our staff, with the staff and I work with this amazing man named Carlos Sanve, who's our Secretary General.
He's amazing.
Yeah. But what drives the whole body of work here through thick and thin, and it's been pretty thick, as you said lately, is the work on the ground with the communities. One of the big disappointments that I've had through COVID is that I haven't been able to, because of travel restrictions, get out and visit the outlying areas of the world. So, you know, I was invited to Bangladesh, and they just opened up a new international hotel with revenue-producing properties, whereby all of the revenue was going back into the community.
Wow.
I would have loved to have been there, and there's so many facsimiles like that all over the world. So we haven't been able to get out, and that has been one of the hardest parts, because what drives this work is the knowledge of what's going on the ground.
Right.
So how could you not support this great leadership development programs and working with communities? It is our raison d'etre, really, working with young people in so many different ways. And seeing it is believing it. And I know now that you're going to be exposed to some of the great exhibits in the exhibition hall, and also for our people online, there's going to be some very good pieces where they can also see some of the amazing programs that are going on. That's what keeps you going through the thick parts.
Through the thick parts.
That's inspiring.
It's been a thing. But even in that, right, clearly folks recognize the amazing work that you do, because I'm gonna tell it. So you have just been awarded the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Medal, right? This prestigious award that was presented to you for outstanding contributions to the development of the YMCA and your community work. How was that? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
How
you.
was that?
Well, you know, it's very special. Recognition is very nice.
Yeah.
And it's just so special. And, you know, you're also with a network of like-minded people who are being recognized for good community work. But never, as a leader or a philanthropist or a volunteer, do you do things on your own.
Right.
You know, it's always a group of people. So whenever you get special recognition, it's always a shared recognition.
Yeah.
But yes, it was thrilling.
Yes.
Absolutely. And I think it's as special to be recognized within our YMCA community for this work. So, yeah, I became a fellow of YMCA. YMCA Canada has a special recognition as a Fellowship of Honor. And so I became a companion in that level, and that was very, very special.
Congratulations again.
Now, so next go round, we get to go to Calgary, right, for the World Council. So what kind of party are you going to throw? I mean, what type of conference
what kind of programming?
Yes, that's what I meant. Yes, that's what I meant. Yes, yeah.
So when you come to Calgary, when are you coming to Calgary? Actually, Calgary is my hometown.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So Calgary is hosting a couple of things. And I'm not sure which one you're referring to, but I can tell you that Calgary will show you a wonderful time. We have a reputation for showing people a wonderful time. We host the largest outdoor show in the world, and in fact, it started yesterday.
Okay.
But threads of all that in Calgary are always running, so you can always have some fun in Calgary, I'll tell you.
I can't
we guarantee
wait.
it.
I can't wait. We got to definitely put that on the calendar. We need a before trip, the actual World Council, and then an after trip to follow up.
Yes.
We might miss a few things.
Now, if you're online right now, again, we want you guys to be a part of this conversation right here. So throw in the chat whatever questions that you might have, and we want to be able to present those to Patricia. But Patricia, when you started out, I mean, you had a platform that you ran on. You talked about youth development, strong YMCAs, good governance, and robust financial oversight. What do you felt that you've accomplished during your time as it relates to the platform that you ran on?
Yeah, I think we made very good headway in all of those areas. So from a strong YMCA perspective, we worked very hard with the National General Secretaries and the CEOs, the area alliances, to come up with some governance standards. So that's very important.
Yeah.
That's not only for good governance, that's also for stronger YMCAs.
Right.
You have good governance, you've got a stronger YMCA, right?
Yeah.
So it's actually a checklist where you go through, and it talks about governance, it talks about accountability and transparency. It talks about things like terms of office and how they need to be limited so that you can give other people an opportunity and fresh voices, and particularly young people. It talks about, it's not in the minimum standards yet, but it's a recommendation that there are some minimum numbers of gender and or age.
Yeah.
So on our international board here, we have a minimum of 7 of one, or a maximum of 7 of one gender.
Wow.
It's a nicer way of putting it, actually.
Yeah.
It works out better to just say it that way. And we have to have a minimum of 4 people under the age of 30. And then there's the geographical spread as well.
Yeah.
So it really does make sure that your board is balanced. But then it's up to the national movements to be sure that they put forward names as nominees that are trained and ready to go in governance and in some of the executive management functions that you want. So it's a really good opportunity to think about how to bring people along so that they can eventually come on to the executive of the World Alliance.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. And the other thing is that you, being the first female president, right, of the World Council, and now newly elected, we have another female. But particularly now, when the gender equity and gender equality across the globe, across our movement, our global movement, is really amping up and coalescing. How was it for you being the first female president?
You know, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And when I was elected, it wasn't so much about me, it was that there was a first woman in 174 years.
174 years.
So important,
yes.
right? Now,
yes.
But as soon as that occurred, that very day, I had people coming up to me, mostly young women, saying, okay, now we need to do something about it.
Yeah.
You know, we hope that you'll also push for more representation. And so we have tried to do that with this good governance piece and a number of other pieces. In fact, I'm hosting 2 women's leadership forums at World Council. One is online on Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's at 5 or 5:30. I'll have to check my schedule, or they can check their schedule. It's very obvious. And one is in person, and it's on Thursday at lunchtime.
Yeah.
We've got I'm just going to facilitate a panel of very good female YMCA leaders.
Awesome.
And I'm also bringing in the CEO of World YMCA.
Wow.
Because we work quite closely with
yeah.
so many of international groups that work with young people. The YMCA is one of them, and very strong. So yeah.
So before you got to the seat, was it an inspiration at some point to like, hey, I want to be president one day? Or was it just, hey, you've been volunteering and it's kind of naturally occurred? Yeah,
in my career, I've never aspired and actively worked. I would call myself a worker bee. So I'm happy to help support someone who also is working really hard to make advances and change. So I would say it sort of happened organically. But if you are a worker bee, and do have some leadership skills, sometimes these things just fall into place.
Yeah.
But I was so honored and so thrilled to be elected. Really
awesome.
I remember when we first found out that you were elected back in the States, it was a bit of a party. Like, we were so excited and just with the election of Carlos and you, it just felt like a new day, right? And that energy and that aspiration, right? That felt like it was happening in the world was an amazing thing. And then right on the heels of you leaving, Vision 2030. So what do you think about Vision 2030?
Vision 2030 is probably one of the biggest legacies that could be left by an executive committee and myself.
Yeah.
So to have a global plan.
Yes.
And, not everyone, not every national movement or every area alliance will have perfect alignment.
Yeah.
And that's all right, because they need to plan according to their own environmental context, right? But to have everyone moving in the same direction, and eventually we hope, we'll learn more about it at our collabs when everyone is going to provide input. But to have people collecting the same kind of KPIs, key performance indicators, so that we can start telling our stories, not only these very good, heartfelt narratives about what we do on the ground, but also have the data to back it up.
Yeah.
And if we're going to work with philanthropists, we have to.
Absolutely.
And fundraisers and corporate sponsors. We have to tell our story.
Yes.
And we have to be accurate with our story.
Yeah.
And our partners are interested in that.
When people see the why, it doesn't make a difference what country. They see the why.
The why.
That's right.
And
the why.
regardless how we run our different operations. So man, if we came together and had a global voice, I mean, we can.
Right. I mean, that's the undergirding of what many people study as collective impact, the collective impact
I love
approach,
that word.
right? Not similar goals, not adjacent, the same goal, the collective impact that we can have as a movement.
So we got a question in the chat. We got Tosin from Houston. Tosin from Houston. Hey.
Hey, Tosin.
So he wants to know what's next after presidency.
No one's asked me that.
I'm sure that's just the...
Tosin, thank you very much for your question. It's a great question. So I will become past president, and our terms are 4 years long. So I'll be past president for another 4 years.
Okay.
Now, as president, I used my past president a lot. So the past president was Peter Posner from England, and England-Wales, and he was so helpful. In fact, he co-chaired the elections committee for me, but he did lots of other stuff. So it depends on how much the president asks for my service, but I am certainly more than willing to help with the board level and board level work. So that's what I'll be doing with the YMCA. I sit on a number of other boards, so that will continue. And have a great personal life with lots of good friends that I'll probably spend a little more time with. Yeah.
I tell you what, one thing about the YMCA, man, you on the hook for. At the end of the day,
we don't let go that easy.
You got at least 20 years. You start off somewhere, right?
Yeah.
You know, let me just volunteer here and there. The next thing you know, you're on the board. The next thing you're running a campaign. Next thing you know, you're vice chair. And then you're chair of that. And then you go to the association level. Now you're at the world level. And so you're 30 years before it's all time.
And then after that, you still got another 4 or 5 that we just need to keep you around and talk to.
Right.
So another question, Ronald in Gambia. Hi, Ronald. How would you describe your greatest achievement during your time as the president? And do you have any regrets?
You know what, Ronald, thank you for the question. And I think the greatest achievement, this might not sound like a great achievement, but we brought the world together.
Yeah.
I mean, our executive committee.
That's a great achievement.
Our executive committee worked so hard. And then through Vision 2030, we were able to mobilize with, and I say we, this is all we.
Yes.
But honestly, we have brought the world together, and you get that feeling when you're here, and I hopefully you get it when you're online too, because it's really a very, very strong, healthy feeling of working in togetherness. That does not mean that we don't have challenges, but it's a challenge. The challenges are that we'll work together, you know. So I think that has been a very good achievement. Do I have any regrets? So I think I have 2 or 3 of them actually. Because of COVID, I wasn't able to get out. And getting out is not just for us. It is also for the people that are getting out, but it's also for the people that we visit. And so often, if you go to a YMCA in Mumbai, they'll bring in local politicians, sometimes national level politicians, and it helps them with their partnerships and their philanthropy. So that was unfortunate that we couldn't get out. I did lots of Zooming, and I did lots of presentations for special events for YMCAs that I recorded. But it wasn't quite, it's not quite the same. And I think another regret might be that we didn't get as far as we wanted with our financial sustainability work that we wanted to do in terms of resource mobilization. But you can't start at ground zero and hope to get to, you know, the 18th floor in your, it takes time. So if you've been involved with philanthropy, you'll know that building relationships is very important. We are well on our way, and I think that that will be a challenge now for the next executive committee to build on that.
So your small accomplishment of bringing the world together.
Just that little tiny thing.
You know, help lay the foundation for the future.
And fundraising as a precursor to fundraising.
That's right.
People forget you got to make those friends first.
Yes, and we did do some fundraising, but it's not as much. And our idea also is not to just fundraise for the World YMCA. No, it's to leverage funds so that YMCAs around the world can benefit. Right? It's not about World YMCA, it's about us.
I love that. I love that.
So we got Kelsey, Nashville, Tennessee. My first stomping grounds with the Y. And so related to Vision 2030, the pillars. Climate action is incredibly important. Climate work is equity work. How do we engage YMCAs that haven't done so far in climate action just to understand that climate work should be embedded in everything that we do to build the future for the Y?
I really like how that was worded. That question was worded. If we think about safety, and how we embed safety in everything we do. Safety for our kids in camps, safety for our employees, safety in all of our policies. We should be doing the same with climate action. So how do we get there? I think one decision at a time, one policy at a time. But there are great best practices. So we have got a community of impact that has been set up on the climate crisis and things that the YMCAs can do. So the good news is that even if YMCAs haven't started, it won't be so hard to start now because there's just good pieces of advice. And people think it's so difficult to get started, and it's not. Start small, but get started. Because if you're not started, you will be behind where the world is going in terms of climate change activation. But also, you will not attract young people. Young people are adamant
Absolutely.
that we address this, and
Yep.
well, they should be.
Yeah.
If you listen to Ban Ki-moon, we are in trouble.
Yeah.
We all hear it from many sources, but I really thought the way he put it was so powerful. So please get started. If you're looking for pragmatic advice, honestly, go to the World YMCA website, and with the community of impact on climate change, we will be able to see practical ideas on how to get started.
Yeah.
And just one last comment, Asia Pacific YMCA, the Area Alliance of Asia Pacific has done some very good work in many of their YMCAs. So it's a matter of connecting with leaders.
Right, and repurposing the ideas. You don't have to figure it out alone.
That's right.
Like the template is there.
That's
so
right,
Leah in Ghana asks, what are the 3 most important and helpful skills for being a female leader? The 3. Thanks, Leah.
Thanks, Leah. Well, you know, being a Canadian, I'm going to say this, but don't apologize.
Don't.
No, always, you know, put your best self forward. Don't ever think that you're not good enough. Sometimes your inside voice will tell you that. Just push it away. Because honestly, you're very capable. You're honestly very capable. Number 2, I think, would be to network. Network. It's just so important. And in turn, amplify others' voices. Amplify other women's voices. Share. Try not to hog knowledge that might advance you. It always works better if you're openly share and amplify other women's voices. So that one is really important. Another one. This is a difficult one, but and perhaps it will sound maybe a bit traditional, but often women have a large share, particularly mums, but all women seem to end up with perhaps more share in a household. And it's really important to have backup plans. So when I was raising my children, and I had a very, very strong career that I have gone through, and I had plan A, plan B, plan C. So if my children got sick, if I had to be on a business trip, etc. And don't be afraid to ask for help or to hire help if you can hire help. So having somebody help you clean or cook or whatever that looks like, that will keep you sane. And
mom guilt is real.
And we see women withdrawing from the workforce, and we saw it terribly during COVID because of those other pieces that women tend to more predominantly. And for heaven's sakes, ensure that your partner, whether male or female, can please help with those domestic pieces of things that need to be done, because it really can be very difficult.
Great nuggets there.
Those are great nuggets.
So let's see, we got Jeff Watkins. He's very proud of the YMCA's efforts in response to refugee crisis in the wake of the conflict in Ukraine. Any discussions on the Y's role post-conflict in terms of reconciliation, as we have members in Ukraine, Russia, and Belize?
Absolutely. Belarus, there's lots of talk about where to go from here, and it's very hard to be exact because we don't know how this is all going to, you know, finally come to an end. But the YMCA will be there for helping to rebuild. We're there now, we're on the ground, but most of the work that's happening now is not so much programmatic, but helping in the communities with some of the basic needs, right? But we will be here. And you know, the group, the part of the YMCA that has done such solid work on this is YMCA Europe. Has just showed great leadership and working with YMCA Ukraine, and then the donut countries of Moldova and Romania. Of course, Poland has been working so hard. So those are some of the areas that we're working really hard with the YMCA folks, and working hard at the boundaries of the countries on the edge. There's so many sensitivities in terms of speaking about Russia and Belarus and the relationships with the Ukraine. But I can tell you from the YMCA that we are a family, and we will continue to support our YMCA in Russia to bring good service to the people where they're located and to Belarus.
Yeah. We talked with some representatives from the YMCA of Romania and Europe this morning, and from the YMCA in Ukraine, and just to hear right their day-to-day what they have to go through and the lengths that they are going to support. It is really a phenomenal thing.
It is.
So long road ahead.
And if you spoke to, I don't know if you spoke to Alina Pop
Yep.
or Emma.
Yep.
Okay,
Olga.
that's good. Or Victor. Yeah, they are all on it.
Yes.
They are working as hard as they
Absolutely.
can. And Alina has just shown so much leadership in her YMCA and our country.
It's we definitely have to keep them in our prayers.
Yeah.
So Mike, who is here in Aarhus, is a youngish chair of the board. He looks great. If you guys can see him, like, he takes vitamins and drinks lots of water. He looks great. But he wants to know, how can we get more young people interested in and trained in meaningful governance and onto boards as trustees and volunteers and executive committee members?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question, because we're a youth organization.
Absolutely.
We should be having more youth on our boards.
Yeah.
And as I said, we have got our minimum numbers that we require. So first of all, I would hope that the boards that are listening, the board chairs that are listening, would consider getting in some minimum standards, minimum standards of equity, of the number of people that are young people that are on their boards. But if they're going to do that, you have to then take accountability and responsibility for how to get those young people in. So first of all, you need to be relevant. So that gets us back to climate action.
Yes.
We're not addressing climate action. We're not addressing employment and mental health. Our young people won't be attracted to come and work with us.
True.
And then you have to give them some step-by-step responsibilities. So people can't come in that are 25 and have never sat on a board and be set with a number of people that have got lots and lots of expertise. It's very difficult to feel that you have equal voice, even though that voice is so important. So setting up advisory committees and step-by-step, so before you get onto a national board in a country, that you would have experience on your smaller local boards, your larger local, making sure that you set people up for success. That's really important. And then being best in class. So if we're going to do this, let's make sure our governance are of high standards so that people are attracted. So you'd asked me about governance. For the first time in the history of World YMCA, we have been working with the Swiss government and a liaison to actually do a very difficult accreditation process. So our governance, if we pass, we're just almost at the tail end of it, we will become an accredited governance body in Switzerland. And that, that's fantastic. And then when you've got that, that's important to attract young people. They see that you're of high standard. But it is also, again, very good for corporate sponsors, for philanthropic donors, because people want to donate to a solidly run organization.
Absolutely.
We got a big brand out there. And as we have our brand out there, is it relevant? In particular to our young people, for that brand to continue on well past that. And then also the corporations as well. As we talk about that philanthropic dollar that's out there, people want to know that you are in that space of doing, change making type things. And then the voice of our young people just becomes that much more important.
Absolutely. And more resources allows you to serve more people. The ticket here is, because there are people that are very concerned about corporate dollars, where they come from, and brush them with a tainted stroke. And so we have to be careful that our mission and vision, values are aligned, right? They're as interested in that as we are. And so to have a marriage of any kind of a partner, you obviously have to be in good alignment. So I think that should help allay some fears of people that are concerned about doing this. It's a little more common, I think, in the US, Canada, and parts of Europe to have this approach. But you have to be very careful in who you partner with. But it's doable, as I've certainly seen.
I agree. You got this one?
No, you got it.
I got this one. All right. So charisma. I was hoping you would say that because I wanted to say the name. Charisma.
Beautiful.
In
Nice
India.
name.
It's a beautiful name. Charisma in India asks, how can we be more inclusive of everyone on the gender spectrum? In some communities around the world, this is very difficult. One day she would love to see, for example, a non-binary person on our boards there.
Yeah, it's very important, and it's very important to me personally.
Yeah,
so, I was involved with the World YMCA executive from 2014 to 2018, and we were asked to, through a motion from YMCA Sweden at the time, to put together a safe space on looking at a value statement coming out, which was to really incorporate all parameters of inclusion.
Yeah.
So we worked with a number of countries around the world for actually 3 years and brought it to World Council in 2018. And what we put together was a value statement.
Yeah.
So that is on our website.
Awesome.
And it is a beautiful value statement. It is difficult for YMCAs around the world in some places where homosexuality is illegal.
Yeah.
And so people in YMCAs receive grants from government and work closely with their governments. And so they cannot be seen to be, they could jeopardize all of their work. Do you see? So it's very, very hard and a difficult pill to swallow. But what we said and what was agreed to is that this is a value statement for World YMCA, and here are the parameters. I know YUSA has done so much work. In fact, we borrowed shamelessly from the work that YUSA did. And you can take pieces of it that are relevant to you. Charisma, I think it was a great question. We are getting there. We have made great advances, and I too would like to see a non-binary person, or 2 or 3, or so that it doesn't matter. Absolutely, but we can't get there. It's like affirmative action in the 60s with women.
Yeah.
People would say, well, no, you shouldn't put women on, they should get there by their own means. Sometimes that just doesn't happen naturally.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
Well, Alvin in Hong Kong said he's ready now, I think.
Yeah.
Alvin said, similar to an earlier question, but when do you think we'll get the nominations from our movements around the world so we might see a youth president?
Well, I would cheer the day when that happened. I really would.
Yeah.
See, we depend on the YMCAs around the world to send in the nominations. So what we do is we go through the elections committee, of which I sit on as an ex officio. We look at our strategic plan, and now we've got, of course, Vision 2030. And so this new EXCO will be looking at it coming up in 2025 to say what skills do we need on our board?
Yeah.
What kind of demographic, what kind of people can we put out to the national movements to say, when you're putting forward your names, if you could take into consideration the work that we need to have done. And it would be wonderful to have a youth member. I will say that the youth member that comes forward to be nominated as president can't come in cold. You have got to make sure that people have some readiness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they can be as bright as, but people do need to have, you don't have to have 30 years of experience. I'm not saying that, but just don't bring people in cold, Alvin. We have to make sure that.
And that was going to be part of my question about follow-up with that. But so we have a lot of young people that are listening right now, a lot of young people here in person as well as online. What do you think those nuggets are for them? What would you say to them? Like, hey, you want to be president? Here are the things you should be practicing right now.
Absolutely. And there's a lot that they can do. So first of all, indicate your interest. If you're a staff member or if you're a volunteer, indicate your interest.
Yeah,
because people can't read your mind.
Yeah, that's right.
So, and then also take some, be proactive and see what's set up from an organizational perspective. And you're talking about in YMCAs. Because often there's advisory committees, probably in Dallas, YMCA Dallas, you've got membership advisory, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
Philanthropic and advisory committees, et cetera. And try to get on one of those. Then see if the workplace will pay for some governance training.
Yeah.
And the governance training modules that are out there for places like Board Source out of the US are so good. And they would so welcome young people because it is hard to get people interested in it.
Yeah.
But add that to your resume with experience on advisory committees, that will really help.
Right.
Networking, what we talked about in our advice for young women.
Yep.
Network, network, network.
Yeah.
Because it really does help. Yeah. So
Yeah.
those are some tips. And then just make sure that you're, as I say, connecting with the people that you need to connect with. And if you find a dead end, and sometimes you do, sometimes there are people that aren't willing to amplify your voice and help you push forward, find another mentor.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So for those of us that are joining us, we have a few more minutes left. So if you have those last burning questions, get them in the chat. But Matthew asks, what will you miss most about your presidency?
Oh, I'll miss a lot. Probably the people connections.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then also this feeling of making a difference. You know, I went in to try to make a difference. The team went in. We started early.
Yeah.
So, you know, the first 100 days, when new CEOs come in, or, you know, I've often been on boards that have hired CEOs, and we take that first 100 days as being very important. You need to move, because the 4 years goes fast.
Really quick.
Yep. And so we did. And so just trying to move in all directions. And then if you're very fortunate, like I was, to have a great CEO or Secretary General in international speak, it is huge. Yeah. So make sure that you hire well. Yeah. It's been such a pleasure to work with someone as strong as the Secretary General and all his peers around the world that have supported him. Oh my goodness. Honestly, he'd be the first and I'm the first to say that we can't do without them.
I think I would miss the food. Like, what, from all of your travels, right? All over the place. Like, what was the best food you ever ate? I would miss the food everywhere.
Oh, it's so true. You know, what do I say here? I'm in Denmark, but I haven't had
the pastry.
Too busy to eat.
She's putting you on the spot.
That's right.
I'll say it. The Denmark pastries. Oh, good gracious. Yeah, I eat bread every chance.
Oh, it is. It's lovely here. I haven't had a big chance to eat yet because it's been so busy. But I mean, honestly, the food in Thailand, how can you ever complain about that? It's just wonderful. And you know what? Just being able to sample the local foods, it's such a treat.
Because you have it at home and you think that tastes good until you go to the actual place and eat it, and you're like, oh, I'm never eating that at home
Absolutely.
again. I'm never eating that at home again. So, as your role of president and as a volunteer, and with Carlos Sanvi as the Secretary General, you guys have a unique dynamic that's played out in the YMCA the world over. How did you go from little to no relationship to Chiang Mai, where you got elected, and so did he, firsts, right? And the heaviness and the joy of all of that to where you are today in 2022.
Yeah, I had actually worked with, if the question is really directed at my relationship with the CEO, and they say for good governance, that really is the most important relationship between your chair and CEO. I had been very fortunate to work with Carlos on that safe space, and we had a number of projects, and we always bounced off very well from each other. Sometimes we're yin and yang, and that's good. You know, you don't always see everything the same way, and that's good too. But we knew that we could.
We know.
We knew that we could work well together. I'm a worker bee, and he is as well. He's got an extreme work ethic, so that's also has been really important. And you know, it's a good question, because we didn't know in Chiang Mai that we wouldn't be able to see each other, or in fact see the board, our own board, in person for 2.5 years.
Yeah, no one expected that.
No, and I mean, this executive committee used to only meet once per year. When I came in and Carlos, we changed that with the agreement of the executive board to twice a year. And then we've had a number of meetings in between. And so that has been hugely helpful, and trying to increase the communication on a regular basis.
Yeah.
You know, without inundating people. You don't call meetings for no reason, but yeah. And the huge factor in this success was our committees. So we had a strategy committee, a movement relevance committee, finance and sustainability committee, and governance committee. And honestly, they worked so hard. We also had the Great Solidarity Fund Committee, which was so important around the world to help out YMCAs that really wouldn't have made it.
Sounds like you guys have really, in spite of, really been able to forge an amazing relationship.
So you've been sitting in the seat all this time.
4 years.
Just a few more days into it. Like, what is the word of advice that you're going to give to the incoming chair?
Well, I expect the new president and I will sit down together, and that will be good.
Maybe you'll get to eat some Denmark food at that point, right?
Maybe, pass the baton a bit. But the fact is that we now have a road plan with Vision 2030. So now the grind comes to how to activate that plan. So there will be so much to do, and that new president is going to have to be out listening and trying to promote and help this activation of Vision 2030. So new president, you need to stick with this plan. It's a great plan. You need to get out there and connect and work closely with your board and your executive team, because those folks have got a huge amount to give to you. Don't try to do it alone.
One of the principles of the new plan is radical collaboration. I love that. I want to put radical in front of almost any word these days, right? But absolutely, they're going to need to do that in order to get to that principle of radical collaboration.
And I'm really glad that you brought up that phrase, because it's just so important. It's such a tough, it's such a strong phase.
I love that. I love that. So Alvin in Hong Kong said that Carlos had said before that he was the Black Panther. So you get a chance.
Oh, that's very good.
to tell us which superhero you want to be.
Well, I have been called Superwoman in the past.
It's appropriate. It's appropriate.
I have. So
I like it.
That would be fine, and I could even take that role out. I wouldn't be limited, you know, by what's defined in the comics. I could just make it my own.
You could make it your own.
I'm already designing my outfit.
That's right. And it should have something sparkly on it. That's just my opinion.
Thank you.
It should absolutely have something sparkly. Well, questions are now closed. Thank you so much for your candor and for your transparency. This has been amazing. We celebrate you as the first female president of the World Council. Any parting words, any last advice that you want to give to our online folks?
It's been a pleasure, and thank you. You've just been great hosts, so I really appreciated the interview. I just want to say at the bottom line is that there are so many strong women that came before. And so, well, yes, I was the first woman president. There's so many that we stand on their shoulders.
Right.
And that last one thing that you're really excited about seeing transpire, particularly from Vision 2030, because I agree. I think it's going to be, if we can get out our goals and be radically collaborative, it's going to be a beautiful thing.
And those 4 areas are so relevant to young people. They were identified by young people. They're where we should be, and we've got to make strides.
Any last words, Keith?
Man, this has been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
I am looking forward. Thank you for the platform that you've laid out. Our future's bright because of it. I think you are leaving us in a great place in the midst of everything that is going on right now.
You were the right person at the right time to usher us through a pandemic. It's been amazing.
Thank you.
So thank you. I appreciate you. Thanks everybody that's online for joining us. This has just been a tremendous success with this conference. Our first hybrid event, and just wonderfully attended on both ends, in person as well as online. So thank you guys for joining us.
Thank you.
And check out your app so you can learn about all of the other things. Stay tuned. We'll be back live in Aarhus in 30 minutes with our World Council TV. And make sure you check us out tomorrow for our Q&A with none other than Carlos Sanvi.
Oh, very good.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.